Hey guys, bringing you my late night review of My Hero Academia here, and I'm sorry this one's late, guys. I was basically out visiting with family, but anyway, let's dive into honestly just the insanity of the chapter because largely this chapter served in order to give us a rundown of the aftermath of the war, essentially, and the key thing to pay attention to right off the bat is the villain side of this chapter, and more specifically, who's been captured. Because as we see, as we see, pretty much a large majority of the villains who got taken into custody were essentially those on the British side of the Liberation Army itself, and Re-Destro as well. The Liberation Army the Liberation Army was the ones who really suffered the most losses in this war, and the League of Villains, they definitely lost twice, and definitely Compress got captured, but largely they're the ones who had basically lost the least amount of people in this war. And the reason why this is an important fact to take into consideration, first off, is because at this point, I think it signifies that the alliance between the League and the Liberation Army is now officially dissolved. But more so, any kind of I think we can kind of all imagine in our heads as to what's going to happen from here. Any kind of stragglers who were part of the Liberation Army and who did get away are going to be looking for leadership, a new and someone new who can help them. And who are they more likely to turn to in the time of desperation? The League, obviously, because as it stands right now, the one with the most amount of power and sphere of influence is pretty much the League, and pretty much definitely Sheikh Iraqi. So at this point, that with pretty much the League of Villains, and with the League of Villains at this point, they're like there's no scenario here where their power and influence doesn't grow, that doesn't grow stronger from here. It's an inevitability now. And in a way, and in a certain way, if you think about the way this chapter was set up, we are reliving what had caused All for One's rise to power in real time with this chapter. That's essentially what's going on. Is that Hero Society is crumbling, and the villains are starting to really take command. That they're genuinely starting to gain power. And in this case, the one gaining the most power is Sheikh Araki. He's the one who has the most amount of power, and the biggest sphere of influence right now. There is the amount of just raw power and influence he has right now is kind of incredible. I've never seen him with the amount that he has right now. Which, on that note, there's a very key moment in this chapter where a single hero says some rather horrifying words. Those words were, "I need to find a new line of work. I can't do this," or something to that effect. I don't have the guts to continue working like this. And what makes that single phrase so haunting is that through that one single hero, he's confirmed that Shigaraki has succeeded. Hero Society's his power and his sphere of influence has continued to grow. The hero's sphere of influence has effectively been shattered by this war, and you can easily view this and honestly, because of this, you can easily view this from a couple different perspectives. The first being that first viewing that obviously I think there's going to be a lot fewer heroes now because people like that man aren't going to have the resolve if it means experiencing such an overly traumatic event as this whole war. And he's not going to be the last as and he's not going to be the last either because from here this new world we're being thrust into will continue to openly expose how many heroes have gone into this simply for the fame and glory and largely this could be seen as a negative, but there is an odd silver lining to this, which is while it is true, we'll probably be seeing a lesser number of heroes. It's a step that's unfortunately necessary, and will go a long way towards showing just how many people have the will and conviction that's necessary in order to not only carry on, but how many new heroes actually are going to have the conviction in order to take the mantle as well. And for as much as I may hate to admit it, we do kind of have to we kind of do have to thank we pretty much have to do thank we kind of do have to thank Sheikh Araki for this, because now he's created an environment for true heroes to shine. In order to shine, sorry. It's just a matter of how Izuku and the others to respond to this. And honestly, even more so than this is something that I'm just now realizing. Because of this new world where it's going to depend on the conviction of the heroes, I can largely see Stain playing a much larger role in the story going forward. Like Stain, I think, like this is kind of the world that as weird as it is to say, this is the kind of world that pretty much Stain was fighting for, and this is the kind of result that Stain was kind of ultimately fighting for. And because of that, I not only think he's not going to I not only think he's not only going to be playing a bigger role now, but I think he's going to be a big influencing force in the future of the series after this. So, yeah. With all that being said, though, we do have to talk about the casualties of this war, specifically on the hero side, because there were many heroes who died during this war, but we also got confirmation on a death I didn't want to believe but what would happen, but it did. And honestly, I've never been so speechless about a death in my life as I was upon learning that Midnight is dead. Like, it's something I knew deep down would happen, but I didn't want to. I think I didn't want to accept that. I didn't want to accept that pretty much Midnight had died. But learning it to be fact now, I'm honestly kind of. Again, I'm speechless. There's no other way to put it other than I think Midnight's death might have actually. It might have put me into a state of emotional shock. Really, like I really don't know what to even think of. Obviously her death is sad, but I'm like, oh, this actually happened. Oh my God. Like I don't know what else to say. Like, Midnight is dead. A teacher, someone who taught class 1A, is dead. I've got no words. I will say I think Midnight's death might have, and I think what's kind of even add to this is that I'm kind of I think seeing the reaction of Kirishima, like Mina and obviously Momo, those seeing their faces of sadness and grief over her death, I think that's also what kind of did it for me. I'm like, Holy crap! This like yeah, I got nothing else to say. Like I'm actually I'm in shock over this. Like a fictional character. I never thought I'd yeah. It's incredible. um, of course. So yeah, moving on from that though. Of course, the chapter also discusses Endeavor's future, and yeah, Dowie has really put the screws to the government on that one because the government's you have to understand the government's mindset is that they still need a symbol, but at the same time, if they overlook what if they overlook everything that was revealed about Endeavor, then it just kind of proves their hypocrisy that Hero Society is just as evil as the villains they fight. And I wish I could say they don't deserve it, but in a way they kind of have brought this on themselves, but by pretty much choosing to in order to let the hero system exist as it is without actually making any fundamental changes to it. Like so it's like they've made their bed and now they need to lie in it. Now that the one thing I'm now the one thing that might be a little more now the other thing I of course, what makes things even worse though is Hawks' situation. Now, that one I think might be a little more acceptable since you could view that as a case of someone reforming themselves. But yeah, with both what's revealed about Hawks and Endeavor in this situation, it's not looking good for the government right now. They've been put through a rock and a hard place. But yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Crunchyroll. Death Knight Vinme, signing off. Later, guys.